Welcome to your panel.
Thank you.
What panel things would you like to say?
Should we give a little of our history and then we'll open it to questions?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio.
It's Perceptor.
And then I'm here. Some history, okay. You don't really care about my personal life.
I do.
My life started when I met my wife. She's here. So I can't say the right stuff. It's actually true. I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I was a music major. Didn't do theater or anything like that. I did some stuff in college, but more about music. I was in the military and ended up in a musical group in the military. I worked with a gentleman who was an actor in Los Angeles. He told me after we did some improv scenes and we'd read plays, and he was a serious actor. His name was John Hancock. He was in the original cast in the original movie Roots. And John told me that, this is what you should be doing. Maybe he was telling me I was a terrible singer. That never occurred to me until this moment. No. And then I started doing theater, did a lot of theater, and still do a lot of theater. I'm a theater actor first. Did a lot of theater in Minnesota when I moved. Met my wife. And did a lot of commercials, voiceover things, that sort of stuff. Then moved out to LA. Got into a play where I played 3 characters. A gentleman who was the casting director and director at Hanna-Barbera at the time. Gordon Hunt, an amazing man. Came and saw the show, told me to come in for an audition. I auditioned for a bunch of different characters, and I started doing cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons. And then the Transformers happened, a lot of video games happened, and luckily I still have them all fooled, and they still hire me. So a lot of video game stuff. Anybody play Metal Gear Solid? Metal Gear Solid, Skyrim, God of War, any Blizzard games like StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo. I know all those. So just a bunch of stuff. But the most important thing was meeting, getting a chance to do performers with a lot of guys who I grew up listening to. And I was blown away that I was actually working with these men who just were, I thought, beyond me. Okay, that's way enough about me.
Is it up to me now? Well, the most important thing that ever happened to me in my life was meeting his wife. Colleen, are you here?
Well, next to your wife.
Wait a minute, let's have both of our wives stand for a moment so you may say. These two women deserve a lot of accolades. They put up with us for how long has Colleen put up with you?
All together?
Yes.
43
Wow.
years?
Wow. Yeah. And Joselle and I are only 20, but it seems like 40. Anyway, I was born in St. Louis, so not too far away from where you were, and I did a lot of theater also. I was interested in theater from the get-go. When I was a little kid, I would do shows in the garage, and put up spook houses at Halloween, and do magic shows, and study ventriloquism, all that nutty, geeky stuff. And then I went to a fine arts college in St. Louis, And from there, I did a lot of theater on the East Coast. In fact, I spent a lot of time in D.C. And this is the first time I've been back in this area for like 40-some years. I did summer stock in a little tiny town called Middletown, Virginia. Does anybody know where that is?
Yep.
Yeah, just south of Winchester. And that's why
And of course, everybody knows where Winchester is, right?
well, no, it's a big city. Yeah, that's a big city. That's where I earned my left equity card. And I did a lot of theater around here, and then I moved to Los Angeles, as many people do. And I kind of fell off the edge of the earth. What happened? You know, I had worked steadily in theater since I graduated, and I came to LA, and just nobody was interested. And it took a while to really get going, and I was lucky to run into a voiceover agent who decided he would take a chance on me. And there was a show called Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. That show was being cast, and everybody in town was up for these parts because this was the first time that Marvel was producing something in-house. Stan Lee came out with a small group of people from Marvel, and so this was, they had licensed their characters out to other companies to begin with at the beginning, and this was the first time it was in-house, so this was a big, big deal. Somehow I ended up with the role of Spider-Man. I don't know how it happened. A lot of it has to do with, that theater training, you know, it all goes back to the acting. If any of you are interested, we're doing a panel, I think, tomorrow about how to get into voiceover. I would say take acting lessons, first of all. Anyway, that really opened a lot of doors for me, and I ended up doing tons of animation work, and then, of course, I did a lot of on-camera stuff, and commercials, and these conventions. I was reminded that we did the first convention, I did my first one in 2004, a long time ago, and they've been just great. I mean, I really enjoyed doing this, meeting all you guys, and getting a chance to, you know, to hear your take on different characters and what you enjoy. It's been a real pleasure. So that's me.
Your applause was too loud. Does anybody have any questions for them? Come on up. Come on up. You can talk here. We're all friends, all 500 of us.
That session was really good. Have you ever heard the whole place out and air it out and then come back? But, you know, strange stuff would happen. There was a lot of comedians and strange people and, you know.
A lot of very, Chuck McCann.
Yeah.
A lot of very funny people.
And musical people. I said this in the book that I wrote about my experience. Scatman Crothers, we would be out in the waiting room and Scatman would bring his guitar or his ukulele. He'd be scat singing, man, and I remember thinking, they're paying me for this. I mean, people pay money to come and see Scatman perform, and he was there with us, so it was a remarkable time, it really was.
Yeah, there was one I've talked about before. I remember we were doing, I think it was the movie. Well, there's a point where we're all doing the sounds of the Insecticons. The Insecticons are eating metal and brick or whatever.
Electrons.
There you go. And so we're all there.
Auditions are tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, actually today, I guess.
I aren't sure. But there's a point where we all have to be making sounds of eating. And we looked around, there was a point where you look around and you see one person going, and someone else, everybody making insane voices and physicalizations, and it just got to the point where we looked at each other and just realized we are grown men. Some of us studied Shakespeare. Serious actor doing this, and we just backed up. We did that. Yeah, and that's it. And we paid us.
Yeah, and we had a lot. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Paul, you just reminded me. After doing a few of the episodes, Wally realized there was a lot of war yelling and a lot of yelling and a lot of screaming and a lot of falling and dying and falling off cliffs and stuff. So he decided to rather than put us through that every time we did a session, he decided to do a character vocal library. So each of us was asked to go through, you know, okay, you're falling 30 feet, you're falling, you're falling 60 feet, you just got hit. Well, I'll tell you what, you have not lived until you stood next to Frank Welker. everything under this burping, farting, I mean, just everything. It was unbelievable. As we know, Frank Welker's probably the most talented voiceover actor I've ever had the pleasure of working with. His range is incredible. His ability to imitate, celebrities is remarkable. So that, I still remember that vividly, standing next to Frank watching him do that.
Nobody's better.
Yeah.
I worked with Dolls Butler, who was incredible. I mean, every other character in Hanna-Barbera was Dolls Butler, but Frank was just fun.
Yeah. Oh. Do you have a question? Oh, it's just me. And you go, I only have two. Okay, Dan, you're doing Snapdragon, and that's how those roles were assigned actually as the show went on.
They're in sessions, but not necessarily.
Yeah, but what they would do is occasionally, because you would do a few lines of a character for maybe show 24, and then show 30 would come up, and you had that same character. They would have to play a reference tape so that you remembered what that character sounded like because you had done so little of it. So that was done a lot. I can't remember ever sort of getting confused between my characters. No. But they did have reference tapes for us to sort of refresh our memories as to what these characters sounded like.
And that happens even if you're doing a long run. There are times if you have a break for several weeks, they'll say, okay, let's play this for you, just in case, just
a refresher. All right, stay hydrated.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Paul Eiding. I first saw the season 3 premiere of Transformers Animated 10 years ago, and I noticed that, and when I learned that Perceptor was going to be in it, but then when I saw Perceptor speak for the first time, I noticed it was not what I expected. So, Paul Eiding, how come you didn't get the chance to play your role as Perceptor again like the other G1 veterans have?
Yeah, Paul Eiding.
What's the deal?
It makes me very sad. I was surprised too. Here's the deal. I'll try and make this a quick story. Forget about that for a moment. Jump forward in time to Omniverse, Ben 10. Every couple of years, they would change producers, writers, directors of Ben 10. Okay? We were at a point where they brought in this whole new crew that had been together working on other things. Okay? Well, we wrapped Ben 10, and at the wrap party, we're all sitting around having a great time, having drinks and eating, having sandwiches and whatnot. And sitting across from the guys who had been doing all the sound work for Ben 10. And I said, it's great to meet you guys, because we never saw them. And I said, what else have you guys done? They said, they mentioned a few things, and they said, we also did Transformers Animated. And I said, you did you? You did the sound design. In other words, you killed my career as Perceptor when you chose to do something else with his voice and use the automated voice. And they said, no, it wasn't us. It wasn't my choice. No. I don't know, maybe it was the director. I said, well, who was the director? He said, it was Matt Youngberg. Matt Youngberg was the director of Ben 10. So Matt, what's the deal? You killed my character. You took his voice. He said, no, it was the producer. So I went to the producers who were producing Ben 10. And I screamed at them. Of course, joking. And they said, no, look, Paul, it had nothing to do with you. It was cheaper. And why I say it was because he wanted to let go of that side of himself to gain more knowledge and all that stuff. It was for money.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I think you would have made a much better Perceptor than a guy who sounded like he's Stephen Hawking.
That's exactly, it wasn't a person. It was the Stephen Hawking, that sound box thing. That's what they used. But thank you, you're my new best friend.
By the way, thank you for dressing up for us. This gentleman's wearing a suit, as a matter of fact. And, I just want to mention that.
Thank you for being here. Great to have you here. Question for both of you, actually. How did you figure out your voices for your respective characters? How did you determine your voices?
I don't know about Paul, but I worked with Wally. Wally Burr was our director. And when they had the original auditions for the show, they actually had character what they call model sheets, and there were pictures of the characters, and then they would have like a small section of dialogue, maybe a paragraph of the character speaking. And thanks, Paul. And we were asked to pick a few and then go in and work with Wally. And I ended up, I probably read for Prowl, and I think the lighter voiced characters. There was no way they were going to use me for Optimus Prime. Those are big voice guys. I'm playing voice guys. So I worked. Basically, you work with. Where'd my questioner go? Oh, okay. So yeah, you work with Wally. Wally would say something like, "Okay, give it a run," and then you try to say, "Okay, make it a little more streetwise. Roughen him up a little bit." So you drop the G's off the end of your words. Hey, what are you thinking? I'm thinking you're good. Okay, make him a little younger. Oh, you mean up in here? Yeah, kind of like up in there. Now keep the street and add a little gravel. Oh, you mean like kind of like this? So he would work you into a certain area, and then when he was happy with it. And understand, he'd had a lot of meetings with the producers and the writers and stuff, so he knew these characters much, much better than we did, because we were just being introduced to them. So working with Wally, you would sort of come into a certain area where he was happy, and then it would be sent to the producers, and they'd say either yay or nay. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And for me, I wish I could remember exactly, but what I remember is that they wanted a kind of an absent-minded professor kind of guy, and I don't think they said English, but I just decided to go that way with that just a bit of a bad English accent, and they were happy with it.
It was really an excellent choice. It really was for that character. It was a cool, wonderful choice.
They wanted to set him apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
And that really did set him apart. Later, somebody said, "Were you doing C-3PO?" It was like, "Oh, yeah."
No, I was doing Anthony Daniels.
Yeah, it's like C-3PO.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hi, I have a separate question for each of you. Paul, in the show prior to the movie in '86, Perceptor was always the scientific one, but did you find it a little strange or different where all of a sudden in the movie he's talking in these long sentences that people they keep asking him, "Could you dumb that down?"
It was interesting because the only thing that was tougher was, you only say what? Okay, what does that mean? Don't worry about what it means, just try and figure it out. So it took a little time just to put those words in your mouth. But after doing Shakespeare, that sort of thing, it does get there. Like when you listen to guys who do all the Star Trek people, there's a reason why most of those folks are also Shakespearean actors or have done a lot of Shakespeare. It makes it easier to get those words working out of your mouth. But that was the only thing. Other than that was... Listen, an actor is always happy when they have more words. Now, let's be honest. It's, I get to talk more? Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Here's how you go through a script. My line, bullshit, bullshit, my line.
And if you ask, a lot of actors will never read the entire script.
Yeah, just that, yeah.
Oh, where am I? I'm in there, okay,
Well, one of them sitting to your right, as a matter of fact.
I understand that part of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks. And Dan, about Bumblebee. Well, first of all, I just want to say I grew up in a generation where Bumblebee actually talked. So. What is it about the original Bumblebee that stuck with all these people that he's become almost at the iconic level, along with Prime and Megatron? Like, sorry, Paul, but Perceptor's not making a movie. So.
Hold me back! Hold me back!
Actually, that character, I'm not surprised by it because he was actually designed, he was Spike's best friend. And Spike was kind of the link to the audience, to all you guys who were watching. He was the human who were kind of the link to you guys. So by being the best friend of Spike, he became sort of more involved with you, or you became more involved with him, I think. Plus, you know, he was the little guy, he was the smallest, and he tried the hardest, and his attitude was like, and you know, he was little. So were a lot of you guys when you were watching, you know. And so I think there was a lot of relating on that level, you know, that he was the small one, but he was always trying to, you know, to prove himself. He was also, somebody asked me today, did you look up to Prime as like a father or a brother or a grandfather? I said a father. He was like a father figure to Bumblebee. So I think that those elements, I think, plus he's just a fun character, you know, just a lot of fun. So I think that's why. Thank you. Thanks.
As opposed to Perceptor, it was not fun at all.
Hey guys, thanks for being
He
here.
was only intelligent. The most intelligent of the Autobots.
Yeah, so Prime says, Perceptor, just do it.
How you guys doing?
All is well.
This question is for Dan. So in the movie, there's a scene where Unicron's eating Moonbase too.
Yeah.
And Bumblebee and Spike are, you know, getting ready to be eaten. And then Spike utters those famous
You're
lines.
going to ask me about that, aren't you?
My question to you is, was that actually in the real script or was it an ad-lib?
Okay, there's a
Hold
lot.
on.
Okay, go ahead.
Could you answer a question in Bumblebee's voice, recollecting it?
No to that. I would, but I'm not going to. How about that?
Okay, that's fine.
Actually, I asked Scott Brownlee, who was our recording engineer. I had run into him, actually, I did an interview with him, which is really kind of fascinating. And he talked about that, and there's a couple of stories. One that it was in the script, and the reason it was in the script was because they wanted a PG rating so that the older kids wouldn't think, you know, the 12-year-olds wouldn't think it was a baby movie. So there's that theory. Then there's the second theory that just Corey came up with it on the spot. I don't know because I was not at that recording session. I did my lines for the movie separately. I assumed that when the group was involved, I had something else booked or whatever, so I wasn't able to do it, which made me very sad because I always like to be with the gang. So there's a couple of theories. I don't know which one's correct. I really don't.
I heard that it was.
That it was in the script?
That it was in the script. Because
Flint Dilley would probably.
Flint who told me that.
Okay, well then Flint I would say would probably be the authority on that. So it was in the script.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
Hey,
All is
fine.
well.
I'm not so worried about. I'm a little worried about Paul, but I'm fine.
I'm not gonna piss him off. Well, if you guys, with your original characters, if you guys ever wanted to like redo your characters in a future Transformer franchise, will you guys do it again?
Are you kidding?
In a live action sense, you know, Bumblebee's like beefy now, and Perceptor's like, people are like saying he's a legacy or something else, and he's barely seen anymore.
We would. I can't speak for Paul. I think I can speak for Paul. We would love to revisit those characters. Are you kidding me? Why don't they stage a G1 throwback series, maybe a limited series?
If they say Bumblebee can talk again, and they brought Perceptor, and they say, can you guys come back, will you actually 100% do it?
Yeah, of course.
In a heartbeat, in a heartbeat.
Those characters, I can't speak for Paul, but I'm sure this is the case. Those characters are very close to our heart. We spend a lot of time with those characters, and they've been very good to us over the years.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously.
What's interesting is what's happening in Los Angeles now is that Perceptor has appeared in a couple of games. I've never been asked to audition for Perceptor. What they're doing now is, in fact, they've done it with one character. Whoever has the most Twitter followers, or the most Instagram followers, I'm not kidding you. If you've got 500,000 Twitter followers and the next person only has like 50,000 or whatever, doesn't matter. They assume that you're going to have a built-in fan base. So that's what's happening.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not about money, it's about numbers.
What are your Twitter handle so we can all follow you?
Yeah.
I'm simply at Paul Eiding.
I'm not even on Twitter.
You only on Facebook like Pia calling?
Just Facebook, yeah. Just Facebook. I actually did Bumblebee in a game, I guess three.
Devastation?
Yeah, Transformers. So and that was great fun. Although, you know, in a video game you're recording separately, you never with the gang. So I never saw Peter or Frank or Michael Bell and Greg, who were all in the cast.
Well, actually, that's good.
Probably.
You know,
Maybe you're right.
Burger.
But yeah, heck yeah. Would you like to hear us on those characters again?
Yeah.
Oh, my Twitter, I lied. My Twitter is the number 4, Paul Eiding, because someone took Paul Eiding. And my Instagram is mine at Paul Eiding.
The number 4, Paul Eiding.
He's really.
How many followers do you have?
I have no idea. I don't know.
15.5K.
Yeah, I'm not, you know,
Oh,
I have not been pushing.
Plus 1.
that's.
3, 4.
Already been followed.
Yes, sir.
Hi, gentlemen, how are you?
Fine thing.
Dan, your new Twitter name is G1 Bumblebee Dan Gilvezan. Just wanted to let you know.
It is.
I just created it for you.
How many followers do I have?
1.
Okay. Start.
No, but seriously, thank you all so much for being here, first of all. It's not, I don't think I have so much of a question, just more of a comment, actually. And I need to steer away from Transformers for a minute, because you all have done so many characters, and I'm a huge fan of everything that you all do. Dan, one of my favorite characters you do is, of course, Spider-Man. But my favorite episode that you did was Along Came Spidey. And I love the monologues in that particular episode, particularly when Spider-Man felt like he should give up. And I just wanted to tell you that still touches me right here. That particular scene with you, Iceman, you, Kathy, and Frank.
Yeah.
That still gets to me. You know, because when you get together and then they encourage you to go back into it, and then I know it's all scripted, but still,
Okay.
it's our era, and it was such a moving,
Very
such a
nice.
moving
Thank
scene.
you. Well, that's our job, to bring these things to life.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
best we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I always loved the Colonel, Metal Gear Solid. And, you know, that's my favorite character in Metal Gear Solid. So, that's what you're all.
He's the man I want to be.
Yeah. But yeah, and I also wanted to say, your moniker is some of my best friends, for Bumblebee, some of my best friends are human.
Yes.
Some of my best friends are Autobots.
Thank you. Would you come to my house every morning? And as soon as I wake up, just kind of pump me up a little bit. Thank you.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Ladies, thank you for allowing them to come here. I know it's really hard, but thank you so much for allowing them to come. This question's for both of you. Since doing Bumblebee and Perceptor and the fandom that you know now, how has it changed you and inspired you in your life?
I'll tell you something, and not to get maudlin about this, but I've done a lot of conventions. And to hear from a fan that either physically or mentally or emotionally, I was going through a really tough time, and that show helped me get through it, that's a powerful thing to hear. That's a powerful thing. Because as an actor, you're thinking, I'm not doing brain surgery, this is not rocket science, I'm not doing I'm not doing anything for anyone, really. To hear something like that is so moving that it really changes your perception of what you have done, what your career was about. So there's that. That's a biggie for me. I don't know, Paul?
Oh yeah, no question about it. I mean, whenever I hear an actor complain about doing a con or something like that, it's like, number one, shut up. And number two, and I've said it to some of you personally, that without you, we're nothing.
Yeah.
I became an actor because I wanted to affect people. I wanted to have an effect on them. When you're doing stage, you get that response right away. Either they love you, or they think you're okay, or they don't like your character, or whatever. You know that response. Doing conventions and finding out that something you did, however long ago, has affected someone's life or meant something to them. Number one, it's incredibly gratifying. It's humbling, more than I think you know. It truly is humbling to us and for us, and it's also, it inspires me to do my best work. It's like, don't think that you're doing something just for a buck, or that you're selling a toy or something like that. That may be what it was. Maybe that's what Hasbro started way back when. It's okay, we're going to sell toys. But it's so much more than that. So I take none of this for granted. And my wife will tell you, every freaking day, I'm thankful and grateful and humbled by the effect of what we do. And to me, it happens to me. I told somebody earlier that there are moments in your life, often when you're younger, that change you or mean something so much to you. I said it earlier. When I first started doing the Transformers, a couple of the guys were actors that I had grown up watching. One of them was an actor by the name of Clive Revel. Clive Revel was a Broadway and London star. He was the first Fagin in the musical Oliver. And I was like, oh my God, I'm working with him. And 6 months ago in Burbank, we did another tee-up con, and he was there. He's 89 years old. And I went up to him and I said, I don't know if you remember that, but when we first worked together, I was blown away that I'm actually working with you. And he said, oh, dear boy, come here. And he put his hands on my shoulders. He said, close your eyes. And he sang for me the first verse of one of Fagin's songs, to pick a pocket or two. And it took me back. I had chills. And so there are times when a child will come up and say, oh, and we'll say, close your eyes, and I'll do Grandma Max, or I'll do Perceptor or something, a line. And see the excitement, it's like, I know what that feels like. So we share that, So everything we do, it's like, I'm sorry about getting maudlin, but it's true. We love doing this because we appreciate you. Okay, that's all.